Ooh, it's cold out here. All right. Oh, man, it's cold out here. Woo! It's still blowing cold in here. That's not good. Hey friends, it's Len here from 1A Auto. In this video, I want to go over some of the most common reasons why you might potentially have cold air blowing out your vents when you have the temperature selection in the hot range. Generally, this is going to come down to one of several things. It could be a cable or electrical issue, or even a coolant related issue such as maybe a blockage or even a leak. So let's start with the cable or electrical issues. Generally, this can either come down to the switch, the cable that goes from the switch down to the blend door, or the blend door itself. In your passenger compartment, you're going to have a switch of some sort that allows you to change the temperature range from either cold all the way over to hot. Now, if you want it to be hot and you switch it to the hot position, but for some reason it goes right back down to the cold, generally that means that you're having an issue with a cable that goes from the switch down to that blend door. Now, if you have the electronic type switch, it can potentially go bad on the inside. It has an electronic circuit board, and if dirt or debris or even moisture makes its way inside there, you're going to find that you have an issue. Now that switch is supposed to send a signal down some wiring all the way down to your blend door actuator. Inside that blend door actuator, it has a circuit board of course, but it also has an electronic motor. If that motor or the circuit board's bad, it's not going to be able to function your blend door. Now that blend door is going to be attached to your heater core box. Its job is to divert air from either a cold section of the heater core box or through the hot section of the heater core box. If for some reason that blend door can't do its job, it might be stuck in the cold position. Essentially, it's letting the cold air just rush right by that heater core and not go through it. If it can't go through the heater core, there's no way that it's going to be able to warm up the air for inside your passenger compartment. If you have that manual switch, essentially it's going to have a switch that just turns a dial. On the back side of that, you're going to have a cable that leads all the way down to your blend door. Now, if that cable was broken or frayed or even crimped in any way, it's going to restrict its movement. Also, if the outer sheathing of the cable came dislodged from its mounting point, when you go to turn it, it's going to move the entire inner and outer part of that cable. It's not going to be able to function the blend door properly. Now let's talk about how heat even gets produced to get forced into your passenger compartment. Now, of course, when you first start up the car, you're going to notice that the air that comes out of your vents is almost always cold. Unless it's about 100 degrees outside, then you'll probably have ambient air temperature coming through. Now, with that said, to get heat out of your vents, you're going to have the car running for a little while. The way that it's going to heat up the vents right there is by forcing air through your heater core. The heater core warms up by coolant. The coolant is warmed up by your engine. When your engine's running, it has a whole bunch of little tiny combustions inside, which is basically air and fuel getting burnt up, forcing that piston to go up and down, giving you power from the engine. When that happens, it creates a lot of heat. They want to make sure that they have coolant flowing through it to help cool that engine, but they said, why waste all that heat? They made it so they had extra hoses that go through a little heater core, which is kind of shaped like a radiator, and it's located right behind your passenger dash. When that hot coolant gets rushed through that passenger side dash through the heater core, it warms up all the little fins, the blower motor blows some air through it, makes the air hot. It's great. Now, of course, if coolant couldn't make its way through there, you're going to find you have an issue. The first thing I would want to check if I was having this issue would be looking right at my dash at my temp gauge. If that temp gauge says that it's all the way down in the cold range, but I've had my vehicle running for approximately 5 or even 10 minutes, generally that can mean that you're having an issue with the cooling system, whether it's a leak or even a blockage. Now, as far as leaks concerned, the first thing that you're going to want to do is safely pop the hood and touch on the top of that radiator cap. Make sure it's not hot. After that, with some hand and eye protection, carefully open up that radiator cap. Take a peek inside. If it looks like it's low, you could potentially have an air bubble trapped in the cooling system, which of course is no good. If there's an air bubble inside that heater core, it's going to create an area where coolant isn't flowing through, it can't warm up the heater core, and it's definitely not going to warm up the passenger compartment. Now, of course, there are places that you're going to want to pay attention to for coolant leaks. Common areas that you might have a coolant leak would be on a radiator. Along the bottom of the water pump, generally there's a weep hole or even a seal where the pulley is supposed to go. You might have an intake gasket leak or even a head gasket leak, among other things. These are all common areas that you want to pay attention to, and if you need any of these parts, order them from 1AAuto.com. Now we're going to talk about blockages in your cooling system. How would you even get a blockage in the cooling system? Well, if one of your hoses is restricted, maybe you dislodged it from an area and you didn't put it back into its original mounting place, could have a little crimp in it. Any type of restriction in your cooling system is no good. Now, speaking of restrictions and blockages, if somebody was to have a leak and they try to do a quick temp fix, cheap and easy, they might use something like a sealer of some sort. You can go pretty much anywhere and you can buy a radiator/cooling system sealer. You go ahead and you dump it right inside the cooling system. Top it off with coolant, drive it around. Maybe it fixes the leak. That's great. Problem is now you've got all that particles flowing around inside your cooling system. Some of it goes around to the areas where the leak was. Some of it's just hanging around, trying to accumulate anywhere it can. Inside of your radiator and your heater core, there's a whole bunch of little passages for that hot coolant to flow through. Those little passages can potentially get blocked up with any particles, miscellaneous debris that you had put into that cooling system. So you think you're fixing a leak as cheap as possible, why not? But really you're causing another issue. You never want to put anything but the manufacturer specified mixed coolant. If you were to add some sort of concentrate or even an additive, you could potentially cause some serious damage to your cooling system. Now keep in mind, the smaller the engine or the less cylinders in your engine, the longer it's going to take to warm up. If you have a 4-cylinder, it's going to take approximately twice as long as this big old Hemi V8. Cars like this might not even warm up for your whole ride in. The way that the coolant gets circulated through your cooling system is by a water pump. Generally, that's going to be powered by either internal engine parts or even an external belt of some sort. The water pump itself is going to circulate coolant through your cooling system. That includes the engine, the radiator, your hoses, the heater core, and a thermostat. Realistically, the thermostat is supposed to be the only thing in the cooling system that creates a restriction of any sort. Now, that thermostat itself is supposed to remain closed until the engine gets up to operating temperature, which is approximately 195 to 220 degrees, depending on your make and model. Once it gets up to that temperature, it's going to open up, allow the coolant to flow through the radiator, and it's going to cool it off for you. Okay, friends, so that's what I've got for you for common reasons why you might potentially have cool air blowing out of your vents when you have your temperature selection in the hot range. I hope you liked the video. I hope you found it interesting. If there was something in this video that you found was interesting or you think somebody else might find it interesting, go ahead and share it with them. It would mean everything to me. If you like the video or even love the video, go ahead and smash on the like button for me. It would mean the world. While you're at it, go ahead and subscribe, ring the bell. That way all of your friends can be kept up with all of our latest content. Thanks.